yes, these situations or people did make it feel this way, but finally, I was the one who did it. I was the one who let myself down. I was the one who did not stand up for myself. I was the one who took it on, and I always had a choice. And I did not honor my voice. So I don't need to forgive anyone out there. I need to forgive myself. And my relationship with myself is the thing that is the most important thing in this life.
There's a kind of exhaustion that comes from spending years trying to hold yourself together while something deeper inside of you is quietly falling apart. Trying to be who everyone needs you to be. Trying to keep functioning, keep performing, keep pushing through. After a while, the body begins carrying the weight of all the things we never gave ourselves permission to feel, say, or even recognize. For 30 years, Shilpa Manjeshwar lived with chronic asthma and respiratory illness until the life she had built around surviving finally brought her to a place where she could no longer leave herself behind. Welcome, Shilpa. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so honored. What you said in the beginning, creating the space, for ourselves was so beautiful, and I resonate so much with it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Of course you do. That's about your life. There's that. Okay, so after all this exciting technology stuff that went on, now let's see if we can do this. All right. Shilpa, can you go a little deeper into what you've lived through and how that experience shaped the work or perspective you bring into the world today?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I, at the age of 10, what began as a cold, something that maybe many kids have, it spiraled soon into a blocked nose and much more deeper. And it was later, diagnosed as chronic asthma. So I had breathing problem and it was very frequent. At that age, I was told that it is chronic asthma and it cannot be cured. Although it wasn't chronic asthma, it was some condition called as allergic rhinitis, which I didn't know at that time. But I believed that it cannot be cured because I was still young, and at that age, I believed what I was told.
Hmm.
Anyway, it began to affect my everyday living. But a few years later, a doctor told me that this could be managed and I could still perform with that. So I believed that also, and so I started just pushing through it. I did great in my academics, everything that I did, but deep in my heart, I believed that it cannot be cured, it cannot go away, and I just had to manage it. So I did everything possible. I did exercises. I learned yoga at the age of 10. I'm very grateful that my parents sent me to this yoga school, learned yoga and breathing. But even that did not help at that age because I think I believed that it cannot go away, and I was kind of manifesting that maybe. So anyway, I lived many years with that. Around 20s, I started becoming interested more in spirituality, and my spiritual journey started with this organization called Brahma Kumaris. They teach a specific kind of meditation where we are encouraged to look at ourselves as light and not the body.
Hmm.
And so this meditation also became part of my life. But in third, yeah, sorry,
I
I'll
do have a question because and you said Brahma. I don't I
Kumaris.
Coma. Can you spell that
Yeah, it's Brahma, Brahma, and
right?
Kumaris, Kumaris. So,
That sounds
yeah,
familiar to me, but I'm just okay. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. So,
Uh,
that meditation became a part of my life, and I started spending more and more time looking at myself as not the body, but as light. Anyway, in my 30s, I started going deeper into breath work. And then, I started exploring other practices like ho'oponopono and, self forgiveness and mirror work. But I think with my first few experiences of breathwork, I started experiencing the no body state that I was trying to practice all, through my 20s. And in that state, what it eventually did was I started realizing that I'm holding on so many things inside of me that I wasn't even aware that I was holding on to. And they started coming out as releases. Anyway, long story short, with all of those practices, what I realized was allergic rhinitis or allergies is actually body's way of perceiving something that is seemingly not very harmful as very harmful and overreacting to it. So it's almost kind of like an emotional hypersensitivity or like trying to avoid the things that we are perceiving as threat. And so I think emotionally also I was doing that. And so my body was only reflecting that as allergies. And eventually, with all of the releases that I had, I was cured of this problem. And I did not even realize that it happened, with all of the releases that I had. Eventually, I became another person, like my identity shifted as well. I no longer, I don't no longer perceive things as threats anymore. And or even if I do, I am aware of that and I try to process it instead of holding on. So I think as a byproduct of all the practices that I was doing, I realized that I was holding on so much and I got cured, which is beautiful. And so I want to dedicate my life for this cause of, helping people realize that sometimes the body is just signaling what is deep inside of us. And even if it's a small problem or even if it's not life threatening, it's sometimes the body is trying to tell you something. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is good timing. Yeah, because like I've recognized the exact same thing about the body and how it is always gonna knock on our door and say, "Hey, something's up. I need to find out what's going on." But for me, it was like my entire life was ignoring it. And then when I finally understood the whole body communication thing, then I would ask the body and it would basically, for lack of better words, I'm gonna give a visual. My body would do, "Hmm," and it wouldn't tell me anything. I'm like,
Now you
"Well,
have
if you
time
want."
for me.
Right, now you have time, exactly. And so I'm like, "Well, if I'm supposed to do this, why won't you let me do this?" And I went through this whole thing, and now I'm starting, I mean, even within the past few months, I'm listening more deeply to the way my body speaks. But in our culture, and you're in the United States, so you also get this version of culture, right? And because I want to go back and talk to you about your experience with the yoga and with Brahma Kumaris. Did I say
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, I did that better than your last name.
But yeah.
But yeah, but it's like what people don't understand or know deeply is how, in for lack of better words, enmeshed, entangled, like the body and the mind are
Yep.
simpatico. This is Italian and I don't, that's the only word I know. Um, but yeah, when you were
Yeah.
talking about, I think the
When
connection
you
here, go
y-
ahead.
Sorry, when you talked about culture, I want to just specify, like, bring out one more thing that was pretty deep in my experience. I think for women everywhere, it is kind of similar in the sense that a lot of these situations or people that we are perceiving as threat is trying to tell us that we are smaller than what we inherently know we are. And I think that was kind of the biggest problem I had. That was the protest that was coming from inside that I was kind of battling and trying to fit and see. The moment I realized and I gave up, and I'm like, I'm just going to be true to myself. The woman or man is just the body. Like from inside, I know that there is greatness inside all of us, and I am the same being that everybody is. And when I recognized that and accepted that, and I no longer took that I am smaller than what I am, then the problem started to dissolve and all of those held on emotions started to come out. So I think culture, yes, different places have different things, but overarching theme is we're being made to feel small, or at least we feel we're being made to feel smaller than what we are. That's what tries to come out. So
And it's thank you for bringing that up because I've been doing a lot of research on the Magdalenes and Yeshua, and I've done research on all kinds of different cultures because personally I was born in Germany, so I have this like draw to different um or understanding different cultures, right? Like it's not like in the US there's a lot of this going on, and no curiosity. It's like, this is the way it is, and this is what I'm doing, and I'm in my little small box, and I'm gonna stay there because it's comfortable, which is not really true because it's not comfortable. But what you brought up about there's a lot of expression coming out now about the feminine, about the divine feminine,
right,
Shakti.
right.
Yes, and I did have an interview a couple of weeks ago, and it posted where we dove really deeply into Shakti and, Shiva, and,
Mm-hmm.
she was a I forget what it was called, but she ca I had the robes. She wore the robes, the orange robes, that's how deep hers was, what that she went into, but it was all very masculine the way she was you know, encouraged to be, right? And so she didn't listen to her own voice either. And as women in general, and this is coming out more and more, and the fact that you brought that up, I think we need to talk about it. It's like we create a belief system around what we're taught by patriarchy or by the male
Yeah,
dominated society. In
yeah,
in all cultures it's like that, right? And there's also interestingly an underlying feminine aspect that is always like running everything that everybody pushes down because we don't know what to do with it because we think
right.
it's something's wrong with it or it's too woo woo or witchy or whatever you want to call it depending on
Yeah,
what culture you've been in, right?
yeah,
So it's like this belief where you feel like you're this big and we're small because we're not supposed to answer anything and we're not supposed to think for ourselves and we're not supposed to be powerful. And when you said that piece about protesting
yeah,
just a few minutes ago, that's
yep,
like uh your inner guru, feminine side of the version came out and it's like, I'm here. I'm here and you're going to listen to me and this is how it's going to be and I'm not going to let an illness stop me. Right? That's what I got out of that. And what I think is, these releases that you had, because I'm very much into somatic and breath work, and
mm,
I don't know what
mm.
is the name of the pranayama. Yes, I have a hard time doing that. I don't know why, but I just don't. But the fact that all of these things release somatic, any type of somatic thing where you connect with your body releases the stuck energies of emotion in your
Yes,
body, but they don't teach us that. And then when as a woman, when you hook onto that and you heal from it, it's like you find something, I did this, sounds like you did this, but there's something inside that feels like you could almost just like not take over the world, but like you could be out there and do the things that you're here to do and you're meant to do. It's not like a force taking over type of thing. It's more like a
absolutely. Yeah,
service. Like you even said that too, being of service. It's like you
right,
finally figured out who you are
right.
based off of an illness and now you can be of service to other people, other women,
Yep,
whatever that looks like, right?
yep, absolutely.
I want to ask you a real quick question before remember what you were about to say because it sounds like you were about to say something. If this conversation is resonating with something in you, there's a free ebook in the description if anxiety or overwhelm has been part of your experience. These conversations are here to create a space for truth, understanding, and a deeper relationship with your own life. Now let's continue. I want you to explain to the audience what a no body state is because to be honest with you, I have moments like not everybody's going to experience this. I want to put that out right away. It's not something everybody experiences um the above and below differently, right? And for me, mine is like walking through fire, feeling I'm always like I've always wanted this, you know, some kind of no body state thing to happen, and I'm like, "No, that doesn't work that way for me." I get it. I'm clairsentient, I guess, for lack of better words. So I feel things. So when I'm in that no body state, for me, I'm doing that intentionally. Mine is more tingling and just kinda zoning out and, whatever, but I know I'm still there. So that's what I hear when I hear you say that. Can you explain or
Yeah.
describe what that is for you?
Sure, yeah. So I want to start by saying I think everybody has a different experience when it comes to, the nobody or the void state. For me personally, the best that I have reached is through breath work. When I do all of those in and out, hyper, I think it's called hyperventilation. And then you suddenly stop breathing for some time. Breath is kind of what connects us from, in this life to the beyond life, right? So when I'm in a state of no breathing, that's when I have first experienced the void state. And in that state, there is absolutely no mask, in the sense I didn't even realize how many masks I've it's not conscious, okay? It's just we've put all of these things around our identity, or at least I have. And that identity, there's none of that. There is the real me, and the real me is not having to put on anything, not having to say anything, not having to even have this body. So for a moment, I don't even feel the body. It feels like I'm in the middle of a black void space where I can see behind me, in front of me, around me, and it's just so beautiful. And there is nothing about the past or the future or anything. It's just that moment, and it's so beautiful. And the more time I spend in that state, the moment I get a thought of like, where am I? I'm immediately back. But with practice, I'm able to spend a little more time in that state. And when I'm in that state, it feels that is the state that brings out those held on emotions. And that is the state that starts to bring, starts to shake up those things and helps me release, so I've s- I as soon as I tasted the taste of that state, I started voluntarily wanting to experience that more and more and more. So
Yeah,
it's a
well,
beautiful state, yeah.
yeah, it is, and the way you said that, you wanted to experience it more and more. I feel when you say that, that is a connection to your DNA, because there's something in your
Could be, yeah,
DNA. I mean, you're
that
from where are
concept.
you from?
India.
So there's something in the DNA that draws you to that, your body to that naturally. Like a lot of people who or even if there's a past life thing going on, there's a
Yeah,
draw
yeah.
to that desire to do that kind of thing. But you two things I got. One was you said it feels like this void state, right? Did you actually have like a vision or a visionary or seeing part of that? Could you see anything, or was it all body feeling, like a felt sense? What was that? Because I'm curious to see what I'm
Yeah,
what
so it to me, like I said, it feels like I'm in the middle of space. Like there's nothing but just dark space, but it's not scary at all. It's, in fact,
but
it's super
you're
peaceful.
feeling it. Yeah, you're
I'm
feeling it, though, you're not
I'm
seeing it.
feeling like a light body for myself, but I'm just seeing darkness around me, which is super peaceful though, in the sense it's not scary at all. Normally, if I'm in a dark room, I'm scared, but this doesn't feel scary at
Right,
all.
right,
It
right.
feels like I'm fully supported here, I'm fully loved here, and although I don't feel the presence of anyone in particular around, but it feels like that is my natural state. That is
Yeah,
where I
yeah,
belong. And
yeah.
that is the place I really want to spend more and more time, because I feel fully loved and supported without having to be anyone consciously.
Prove yourself. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
and it's so interesting to hear you say that description, because mine, I'm just trying to give people an idea of how different this is
Yeah.
for each person, right? So, in my home, I have a couch that looks out French doors into tall trees, and we're in the middle of this in town, right, where I live,
Mhm.
and there's townhouses over here and the main part of the house over here, and these trees, these cathedral-like trees, right? There's birds, there's squirrels, there's chipmunks, there's nature, all kinds of stuff out there, right? And when I do these types of meditations or getting into that state, I start my like, for me, I end up opening my eyes and looking out into the trees because the light is coming in
Mhm.
such a way that it zones me out, right? And, it's like, that's when I start, so I don't feel like darkness or void. I feel like everything's just kind of doing this, and then I have a clock that has a tick, you
Uh-huh.
can hear
Uh-huh.
it, right? So that adds to the zone out, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, but I keep just staring out there and it's like this whole it's just peace. That's the best word I can use
Yep.
for that. It's like really hard to describe what
Right.
it
It
is.
is.
Yeah.
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 In fact, the first meditation that I was talking about with Brahma Kumaris, they encouraged a lot with open eyes. But with open eyes, I personally could never achieve, like, I have not experienced that state with open eyes. The closed eyes and breathwork was the closest that I could experience what they were teaching, which,
And
like you said, it's
yeah.
different for everyone.
Yeah, well, that's interesting you brought it up because I've always had a hard time closing my eyes and going inside because of all my trauma. So my body's in hypervigilance. And when I close my eyes, it's keeping me from like making sure my surroundings are okay. So this is a right now real time discovery. When you say that for you to be able to close your eyes and get in there, I can't do that. I can't. It just doesn't work for me right now. Maybe someday it will, but it doesn't
Yeah.
work for me. But being open, but doing the open and and years ago I learned something called ascension where you
Mhm.
repeat have you heard of that? You know what
Yes.
that is?
I
Okay.
mean, there are different versions of that.
Oh,
About ascension. I followed the steps, and yeah, that's about what I know. But I know that there are different schools that teach
yeah.
different types of ascensions. Yeah.
But that's and the way it was taught, it's similar, but, like, they have spheres and you repeat these in your mind and you say it
Mm.
out loud sometimes. You do it eyes open, you do it eyes closed, whatever. I
Close.
did that for
Mm.
a long time. That actually moved me, helped me to understand what all that was.
Nice.
But when you said eyes open, eyes closed, that's what that reminded me of because it does teach that. And then there's different spheres or different levels that you go into that help you go I mean, here I'm doing this, but it actually does this, it goes inside. So it's all very interesting. There was one other thing that came up for me. It's like, the only other way that people who are not used to, meditating and have a hard time, especially in the Western world,
Mm-hmm.
is, um, go to the Himalayas because you can't breathe up there. There's no oxygen up there, and they bring the level of the way they meditate down, the oxygen everything, the heartbeat comes down like it's almost non-existent,
Yeah. And
probably because they have to, I don't know,
yeah,
you tell me.
I feel the breath work that I started following, it's called Wim Hof breathing. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
That I think comes closest to that because you are kind of breathing in and out, hyperventilating. So your body, you can feel your hands, tingle sometimes. And what happens is the body starts to become a little numb by the time you reach the kumbhaka or the breath hold. And when you are in the breath hold, you've already trained your body to become numb and go to the side. And so you're fully able to go to that void state. So I think the breathing, it's an instant gratification breathing, if you ask me, because pranayama has different levels. This one is like, this will get you there fastest, I feel, from my experience. So it's a great one to start if you want to like experience those states because it kind of trains your body to experience that sooner, in my opinion.
Yes, yes, Wim Hof is
Yeah.
perfect to get in there, you just go slow, and, the other thing that helped me out really amazingly was, just they call it somatic breath work, which is
Mm,
probably the same thing, but,
mm.
I was living in South Florida, and I went to this, uh, thing that a friend of mine set up with a friend of his that was a what do you call it? A singing bowl
Uh-huh.
person, right? So he did the breath work, she did the singing bowls.
Sound bath.
And
Yeah.
mm, so it was a weekly thing that they did. I didn't go every week. I tried it out like 3 times, and it, like, loosened up stuff in there like nobody's business. It's like, you're right. It doesn't take long if you do it. You just there's a part of you that is almost like choosing. You need to choose that, because and then be willing
Yes.
to do it, because it could feel uncomfortable because you're not used to that. But he would
Yes.
go through the whole process of the breath work and go inside, and everything you're talking about with the vibrating hands or the tingling and the
Yes.
dizziness
You
and
can.
all this,
Yeah.
and you're laying down. So, and then you get all this stuff out, all this stuff out, all this stuff out. People were yelling, they were crying, they were doing all these things. And then when he was done with his portion of it, then the singing bowls came in. So it
Yeah.
settled everything
Beautiful.
back
It just.
down, because I think, again, in the Western world, I think we need that because we don't
Right.
understand how it works,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, I just want to briefly come back to the masculine feminine discussion that we had
Yeah.
earlier. So I think every human being has a masculine and a feminine aspect inside of us. And
Yes.
over the times that we are living in, the masculine part has more importance, or at least that's how the world outside us is beginning to is shaping up. So that's why we give more importance to like achievement, doing, pushing, and getting things done. And you be there at 8 a.m., work till 5 p.m., do this, keep going. That is the masculine part.
Huh?
And somewhere we feel that part of us is more important, and the feminine
Mm.
part is more of the allowing, all of the things that you described, like gentle movement, yoga, some types of breath work, sound bath, all of the we give less importance to that, and then we give, or at least generally I'm speaking, more importance to the masculine part.
Mhm.
But these two need to be in balance, and as we start spending more time with ourselves, we start understanding ourselves more.
Mm.
The part that we give importance, I mean, we start nurturing the feminine within us, and that starts to bring out a balance. And we tend to think like this is time waste, like I'd rather do something than just be with myself or meditate. Many of us, at least I used to think that way. But the more I started nurturing the feminine, it just life changes. It just makes you a much better person, makes you more authentic to who you are. Just it's a beautiful journey once you start honoring that part of ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And then at some point, because we're so wrapped into the whole not good enough thing and the way we were, however we were traumatized as children, whether it was an illness or, a physical thing or a mental or non-nurturing, whatever we experience puts us in this place where we don't think we deserve this. And this is not about deserve, it's about who you are. It's your truth.
We
It's
are.
everything
Yeah.
inside of you, and when you start pulling up the layers and moving the layers out of the way, and you start discovering it isn't something that just happens. It is not an action step. That is masculine. Masculine is about action. It's
Right.
very subtle. It's so subtle. And then all of a sudden, one day you wake up and you're like, wow, I'm like in peace right now. What is this? I don't understand this. And then you
Right.
start freaking out and going, but eventually it comes to a point where
It
you
comes.
don't do
Yeah.
that anymore
Yeah.
because it feels so good, you know? So thank you. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that back into the conversation. And speaking of societal and masculine and action and all these different things, I'm going to ask you this question because I think it's really interesting. The something you had mentioned to me earlier was part of this. So you talk about the corporate mask. I'm going to quotes like and physical illness, and you spent years in corporate management, and
I'm still working.
you're
Yeah.
still got okay, while battling chronic illness, but you're not
Mhm.
battling the chronic illness
No.
anymore, you're just still
No.
in corporate,
Yeah.
okay. So how can we tell when a physical symptom is actually, and I love this phrase that you use, that I was going to say, somatic protest from a soul that's tired of performing. That is such a like amazing thing that I want to know that piece because you talk about it. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
absolutely. So again, like it all comes back to listening to ourselves, like taking the time to listen to ourselves. And for me, I was constantly in a state of stress or, constantly trying like what is next, what is next, what is next all the time. I have children at home that need to go to school. So, get up
Mm.
in the morning, get the lunch boxes ready, get the food ready. It's just like it was clockwork and I was constantly stressed and I was, managing my allergies and other problems. Everything, it was just part of life. And I was like too much into that masculine energy, I should say. I did yoga regularly, but even that was more like a chore, like, check this, check this, check this kind of a thing. But
Understood.
yeah, but but then as these meditation practices and those things came more into my life and I started having those releases, I would say the most important thing is to make sure that there's nothing that we are holding on to. And so these practices don't have to be something like, you start as I have this problem, I'm going to solve this. But instead, I'm going to start looking deeper into myself and listen to myself. And when we start going deeper, then the body and the mind automatically, what is the body holding on to, what parts are being released and no longer needed. They just start coming out. For me, the breakthrough happened with breath work, Ho'oponopono, and mirror work. The mirror work was a main thing in this because what I realized end of the day was I was not angry with anyone or any situation. I was angry with myself. The part that I ignored the most was my relationship with myself. That is
Mhm.
the most important thing throughout our life. It's like, how am I treating myself? Am I really honoring the greatness or the life force that is within me? And that's there in everyone. It's not unique to me, but I need to honor my uniqueness. And am I doing that or not? And so, starting with listening to ourselves, going deeper, and then discovering what is the body trying to tell. I think that, for me, that was the thing that worked.
So that's beautiful. I love that because it's just it rings true for me for sure. But how do you connect with yourself? Like, I'll give you an example of mine so then you understand what I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Um, so when I connect with myself, it's usually, well, it doesn't happen as so much anymore, but it used to a lot. And so I'd be going through a crisis and my emotions were rising and my fear and my sadness and the anger, which I never showed anybody, and all that stuff's coming up. Da, da, da. And it took me forever to actually understand what that was because they were all mixed together. And at some point, as I was doing this work, they started separating themselves and I could see what was what. Like, why are
Mm,
you scared? So I would stop in the middle eventually. I would eventually stop, but you had to practice. You have to like rebuild. It's like neuro linguistic programming. You have to rebuild the synapses in your brain so they know how to do this because that's how you create a habit, right? Little clinical stuff there. But what happened was when something came up, I would be like, what am I putting into this situation? First, I'd ask that question. What am I personally putting into this situation that might be causing this reaction in me? And then the second question I would ask would be, or could it be something that I'm just reacting to of somebody else's stuff? Because it doesn't always have to be your fault. you know? So I always question. I'm a big questioner. So I questioned everything and I was always like, well, what is it that and then when I was finally taught, oh, talk about the body, where in my body am I feeling
is
this?
exploring.
And
Yeah.
then when you start to understand, because different parts of the body hold different types of emotion intentionally, so you can recognize, and that's how the body talks to you. It's like when you understand where it's coming from, like the gut is generally fear or it's um protection. I mean, there's a few things that can happen in the gut, but
Right.
it's also like it reads the environment. We are so incredible as bodies that we don't even know that our bodies know what it's doing.
Right,
So,
right.
does that make sense the way I
Yeah,
did? So how do
yeah.
you do that?
So my approach is actually slightly different, and everybody has a different approach. I've seen where, you try to understand the problem and, try to get to the core of it. Mine is slightly different, and I want to just give an analogy before we begin. So, when a deer is attacked by a tiger, let's say, and let's say that the deer survived the attack. After that, it vigorously shakes its body just to, get those things off of it. And after that, it just moves on as though nothing happened because it's able to like shake everything off. At least, yeah, human beings are different. Sometimes we just hold on. We're not able to express at that moment, whatever the reason is, but we
I
hold
think we're
on, right?
taught to hold it
Maybe.
because I think because we're mammals that we should be doing that's called,
Right.
neurogenic tremoring, I think.
So we don't do that. And that's the genesis of the problem. So we are like storing a lot of things. Now, it's not necessary to remember why exactly I stored the emotion. What is more important for me is that I shake it off. So I do not really believe in going to the core because
Mm.
the mind is super bizarre in the sense that it can make connections that probably don't matter anymore, or at that time it mattered,
Yeah,
and then today
or
the context is different, we have
they
changed.
make it up. The mind
Right.
can make it up. We don't
Make it
know
up
that.
too. Yeah, exactly. So the reason is not as important as the release for me. That's how I think about it. And that is the
That's
beauty
good.
of the practices that I'm doing. One of the practices is called Ho'oponopono. It was, popularized by Dr. Hewlin. He's from
Mhm.
Hawaii. And when I read his story, I was very impressed and I really wanted to try that. And so it has these four simple phrases: I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you, in any order that you can say. Initially, I was like, how can this help anything? But I still practiced it. But the core belief is that we take responsibility for everything that comes into our consciousness or into our life. And because we take responsibility, we are like, you can imagine your, again, analogy, consciousness to be like a spear. Okay, now if there are some grooves, then things like anger or attachment can, let's say, come and attach to those grooves because those grooves exist. And by doing this prayer or these four phrases, it kind of opens that up and makes the spear a perfect circle so that those things can no longer attach and they just have to move on and they just have to go out. And that's what it does. It kind of cleanses your my consciousness so that it's all like neat and clear and those things can just move out. Now you might ask, like, who am I telling sorry to? Who am I, asking forgiveness for? It's mainly like anything within my control that I look at it as I'm telling this to divinity. Anything that's within my control that I could have done that I did not do because of my awareness at that time, I am sorry for that. And then I love you and thank you kind of changes the frequency from a problem frequency to a solution frequency. So I'm already kind of thanking the universe and telling, I am so thankful that you have solved this for me. And all I am at core is love. And so
Yes.
by constantly repeating that and actually meaning that, I always ended up with tears in my eyes. So my practice is more about letting the release rather than trying to know why I stored it or where it is. And invariably, when I do this repeatedly, my body clearly tells me where it is and then releases it. And at that point, I can feel the release. It feels very light after all the, sometimes I'm crying, sometimes I'm even laughing. But when the release happens, I can feel the lightness and that feeling is there, I know that I've released something.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, release is a big thing for you. I'm hearing that. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I understand. But it feels so good, like, even something when I first started was a temper tantrum. And I would be on my bed, and I'd be kicking and screaming and doing the whole temper tantrum thing, and it let it go, and then I was exhausted, and I kept going and doing it more and let it go and exhausted, and I mean, I got to the point where I was so exhausted I couldn't move anymore, and I would cry, and I would laugh, and I would pass out, and, and then but I also felt the energy, my energy, it was, like, so big, and
Yeah.
but that back then helped, and I've done Ho'oponopono. I've done
Mhm.
that, and I did it for years, and now every so often, if I can't fall asleep, I'll even do it right before I fall
Mhm.
asleep. And what I found was interesting about it, along with what you said, is that I think when I read about Dr. Hewlin and his works, or
Yeah.
somebody else had written this who works with him or something, I can't remember, but there's
Joe
something
Vitale, I
about
think
it.
he's yeah.
What was the name?
Joe Vital
Yeah,
Joe Vital, I think they
I
wrote a
think
book
so. Yeah, yeah.
together.
I
Zero
think that
Limits,
was
yeah.
it was him. But what happened was there was a piece where they explained something about, and this is, I'm gonna use different words than they do, but it's almost like because of our connection to consciousness, to everything, that when
Yes,
we do Ho'oponopono, it
it
affects
affects
the
everything around.
consciousness. It
Yep.
affects everything. So it's not like if you're doing it, you could do it for yourself, you could do it for somebody else, you could, and they
Yes.
talked about how, I think it was Dr. Hewlin when he went to the hospital where he
Yes.
actually did Ho'oponopono before he went there, and then he
Yes.
did it for like 2 years while he was there, and it's literally settled every single patient
Everybody was
in that
healed.
hospital. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, well, if we know these things exist, that's the thing. It's like getting it out there so people can find the thing that they connect with. And then they can do what works for them, and they can put it neatly in their toolbox for when things come up. And we're
Yeah.
all doing this. My, what a peaceful planet we would live on.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's insane. Um
Yeah.
Before I get into
I
this other, go ahead.
Sorry, just one more note on that one. I feel like when I do breathing or breath, slow breathing, pranayama, if we want, like we can also do the quick, fast breathing before. But then when I do slow breathing, my mind automatically, like my thinking changes a little bit, just like how breathe, when you're angry you breathe a certain way, when you are like feeling another emotion you breathe a certain way. So when you change your breath you can also change your emotions. So when I do breathing and then follow it with ho'oponopono, that has been the most effective for me personally.
Yes. Yes.
And that has brought about a lot of unknown things surfacing up for me. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and this next question is actually related to that, so I'm glad you said that, because you also, well, you talked about the mirror work, or the alchemy of mirror work,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
you talk about also having a breakthrough through radical self-forgiveness as well as
Yes.
Ho'oponopono. And
Yeah.
when you did Ho'oponopono, the way I understand it is you did it in looking at yourself in the mirror, or not?
Yes.
Okay, so
So
why,
yeah.
maybe
Go
you
ahead.
should answer that part first. You can explain that, and then I'll ask you the question, because it kind of, maybe one thing will lead into the next one. So, yeah, go
No,
ahead
I
and
was going to
answer.
say initially I did Ho'oponopono not in front of the mirror. And
Okay,
I did
okay.
I did have a lot of like moments of releases and knowing myself more. But then I followed it with the mirror. And that's when I realized, oh man, I had a lot more insight that I didn't even know.
Isn't that fun when we discover that? It's like, wait a minute, come
Yeah.
on, aren't we done yet? Oh wow, yeah, no, that makes purple. And there's the, there we go, purple sense. It makes purple
Yeah.
sense.
Oh,
Okay,
common sense, yeah.
purple sense. So then, why is meeting ourselves in the mirror often the final key to releasing the long-term patterns that are stored inside of our nervous system?
Yeah, so again, like for me, it was like I did not even I honestly believed that I was storing emotions because the situations were unfair on me, or the people were unfair on me, or something out there got me that was that was not my
Wasn't my
problem.
fault.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was kind of, even though Ho'oponopono talks about responsibility, that was what the belief system that I was operating on. And even with that, I had a lot of moments of release, and I was like, okay, now I forgive them out there, and I am good now, it's all done. But when I did it in front of the mirror, and then I realized that, there is, yes, these situations or people did make it feel this way. But finally, I was the one who did it. I was the one who let myself down. I was the one who did not stand up for myself. I was the one who took it on, and I always had a choice. And I did not honor my voice. So I don't need to forgive anyone out there. I need to forgive myself. And my relationship with myself is the thing that is the most important thing in this life. And if I
Absolutely.
can recognize my greatness, if I can be with myself, if I can be my best friend, if I can honor myself, only then will others, or, it will get reflected outside. How can I ever blame anyone else if I did not take the responsibility for myself, right? So something clicked that day when I did this. And
Beautiful.
that was the day
Yeah.
I had the most releases actually. Then I realized that, oh, I was angry at myself. And it's good to know, it's good to revive that relationship with myself finally. And yeah, that was a breakthrough that I had, which was beautiful actually. So it was both, it was relieving. I had a lot of releases, but at the same time, it was so beautiful.
Yeah. And to kind of define what that means, it's like it's releasing and it's beautiful because in life as humans, we can experience both sides of the coin at the same time. Because
Yes.
sometimes we're going through something and it's like, yeah, and you release everything and it's like, oh, in the same moment.
Yeah. It
But
was.
that works with everything, and then you had said that you always had a choice. And through my own experience, at certain points in my life, I did not believe I had a choice.
Same
I
here.
believed, right? I believed that everyone else had the choice to tell me how I needed to be, what I needed to do, what I needed to look like even, all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. So, it is true that when you come onto the planet as a human, we have a choice in everything. That's the only thing that nobody can take away from you. And at the same time, we also, especially if we've been through trauma or any kind of trauma, get to realize that we have to find that choice again. We have because it's there. We just
Yes.
we need to walk through these things just to uncover that we do have a choice. So, what would you say to the audience about
Yeah.
choice when it
Yes.
comes to that?
Yeah. So I just want to give a couple of examples here, actually. So let's say, and this is probably a very dumb example. Let's say, like, someone says you have to dress up in a certain way. Okay. And then we believe that we have to do it.
Did you say
It's,
dress? You
yeah,
said
dress.
dress in a certain way?
Yeah,
Okay.
dress in a certain way.
Yeah.
Like,
Trust me.
where,
Yeah, I
yeah.
got that one.
So it's like we either believe that this person has more authority in our life than ourselves. And because we are afraid, or we have some underlying fear that if I don't listen to this person, this and this can happen, we choose to do that. We choose to do that. But we may have some resentment that I really didn't want to do it this way. I wanted to do it another way. But I am afraid that if I did not do it this way, then this and this could happen. This person could leave me, or something can happen that is a thing that I'm trying to avoid. Or we have a choice of, again, maybe it's not a choice. It's like when you are truly in tune with yourself, that comes more naturally. Or we know that this is what I truly want, and I believe in my own self and my choice, and I'm going to dress in this way. And with that, I don't carry any resentment to this person. And when I'm truly in that power and in my power, and when I do that, automatically the other person, it will reflect, and that person will no longer have the authority or the power to tell you. And that should come from within. It's not something that,
Mhm.
you know. So anyway, like, the more I talk about it, I think it's less of a choice and more of a work that we do on ourselves, and discover who we are, so that it comes out naturally in a way that at that point it's not offending people. When you are truly in your power, it reflects in your body language or
Yes.
in your aura or something, where other people also get it. or if they don't, then it's a natural transition for you anyway, kind of
Mhm,
a thing.
mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so I think it's more of discovering, and once we know who we are, those choices come more naturally, and we start living more of an authentic life, more of being
Mhm.
true to ourselves. Yeah.
Well, that's really important that you said that because when you're going on a healing journey and you're discovering these things, and of course, nothing works at first, right? And when you're at this part of the healing journey and you recognize that things actually work subtly, automatically, they just are. It is
Yeah.
what it is. All those things that people say are actually true, but you don't know it when you're in the journey on the journey, right?
Yeah.
So, all these things that you learn, like setting boundaries and saying no and meditating, I mean, from one end of the spectrum to the other, all these things are part of your journey and it brings you to a point. This just hit me. It was like, oh wow, this is pretty
Yeah.
cool. It brings you to a point where it's almost like you don't need it anymore. It's like you're
Exactly.
just being in your life and you're just showing up as you and things just automatically, we talk about the law of attraction and we talk about all these
Yeah.
different things. And those things are true, and they don't happen when you're in a state of stress and
Exactly.
collapsed uh nervous system and all these different things. Those things don't happen until you work through all the stuff in your nervous system and you come
Exactly.
out on the other side, and then they just happen.
They
You
just
know,
happen.
they just happen. That's so
Yeah.
powerful. I
And
appreciate that.
we've just I mean, we might have been planning all those things, but when we actually go on this healing journey, then the planning doesn't need to be there. It just happens. And
Mhm.
I've noticed that in my job too, in the sense I used to be so stressed about everything and trying to plan everything out, trying to make sure nothing fails. I am much more effective now where I am not planning much, but I'm showing up as myself and, just being there and doing things. Things are happening more automatically for me now than when I was trying to be in control and trying to plan everything out. So,
I understand that one. Well, yeah, and also the fact that planning, even planning when you get to this point isn't necessary. It's like, and sometimes, like, we plan all these things we wanna happen in our life or at work or, whatever, and or what we wanna do with work, you know, and the most interesting thing I'm hearing when you say that, and it's not coming from you, I think it's coming from my own, observer person, is that even the things that we plan to happen that don't happen and something else comes in its place because they were not meant to happen, that's still part of our journey, and it being able to accept that, hey, maybe that wasn't right for me. I mean, there's so many
that is
nuances and all.
beautiful. Yep, that is
Yeah.
beautiful. I've
Yeah.
seen
Thank
that happen a lot. And maybe earlier when you were not in that state, we would probably get stressed about it. And now it's more like you're able to see that, yeah, this is divine play, maybe,
Yeah,
just go along. This is
whatever.
what is meant to happen. Yeah.
You know what? I started feeling it earlier when we were getting on to do this interview where it was like,
Yeah.
technology's not working and I can't control it, this and that. And then at some point, and I kept feeling it, and I heard myself in the back saying, just keep going. It's okay.
Okay.
We've got
Yep.
this. And then when I just let it go, now look where we are. That to me is real-time proof
Yeah.
that's how it works. When we
Absolutely.
let go of that control and that trying to figure all this stuff out, we're very delicate and complicated humans, but we're not really that way. So, um, Shilpa, I'm gonna ask you some questions that I ask all my guests.
Sure.
What is one thing that you would offer someone who knows something isn't right in their life and doesn't know what to do next?
To me, it is breathwork and ho'oponopono. Like, focus on yourself, see what would make most sense for you. I mean, when nothing around me works, I focus on myself. That's what I do. I'm like, okay, nothing is working. I'm going to look internally and focus on myself. And for
Well, what
me,
does that
these
look like for
two,
someone who has no idea what that is, though?
that's what I would say, like, breathe. Breathe,
Breathe. Okay.
and do Ho'oponopono. I mean, those two absolutely bring me to a spot where I'm mentally much more clearer and, gets me to a better place all the time. If
Okay.
there's one thing to pick, that would be breathing.
Okay. And I'm going to share something because this just hit me when I was going through my deepest, darkest, dark night of the soul, so to speak,
Hmm.
in 2023. That's when I restarted Ho'oponopono. And I actually got certified or whatever it is in it. I
Nice.
wanted to, yeah. So I was like, I was digging deep then because I didn't know what else to do, and Ho'oponopono because I didn't know what else to do, right? And I remember that I just kept going and kept going and kept going, and I was literally in a depressive state for 10 days. I was on the couch sleeping for 20 hours a day. And one day I used to drive for Uber at that time also, and I think I was doing that. And I was driving on the highway in Florida, and I'm doing Ho'oponopono while I'm driving, picking somebody up or whatever, and I looked over to one of the highway signs, the advertisement signs. What are those things called? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean. Okay,
Yeah.
so I looked over billboard. I looked over to the
Billboard.
billboard, and on the billboard it said, "Pray, God listens." And I was
Isn't
like,
that beautiful?
"That I know, right?" That still brings tears to my eyes because that in and of itself, and you can call God whatever you want to. I mean, there's many expressions of God. So it just happened to say that, and it just happened to hit me, and it was like that nailed it for me. Like, I'm doing Ho'oponopono, that's a prayer,
Yep.
and I see the sign, and that's an answer.
What is the odd that it shows up at the exact moment that you were looking or you were
I
praying, right?
That happens all the time. That
I know,
happens
I
all
know.
I was driving in South Carolina one time. I have to say this too. I was driving in South Carolina and I was like, we're just about to come into North Carolina. And I'm like, I'm hungry. I want a restaurant that's vegan. There won't be any vegan restaurants in South Carolina. And I
Mhm.
looked up at a billboard
Ah,
and it had an advertisement for this I gotta tell you,
vegan
it's
restaurant?
I'm gonna plug it. Eliza's Vegan Cafe. It's like an hour south of the border, or maybe an hour south of Charlotte in South Carolina. And I saw that and I'm like, no way. And I immediately pulled, it was the next exit. I immediately pulled off onto the next exit. And oh my gosh, that food there is absolutely incredible. And I'm like, we get answers. We just got to pay attention. That's the kicker.
That
Okay.
is beautiful, and thanks for sharing that. I think two things that, that stood out for me are, one, this journey is not always comfortable. Like there are moments where you'll be like, well, what have I gotten myself into? But there will be answers when we look for it, and there will be synchronicities like this. So that's beautiful.
Yes,
Thanks for sharing. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, how would you define awakening?
Well, I wouldn't, you know what? I will say I don't know. All I know is that I have had a journey and I'm a different person today, and it's a constantly evolving process. There is always something to learn and grow into. I don't believe in this concept of awakening being a one-stop shop, and it's just a journey. Keep walking and discover new things every single day. So yeah.
Well, so that is awakening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's perfect. You're the first person that said I don't know. So that's why I responded that way. That's pretty cool. What do you believe soul divinity is?
So, in my opinion, it is the greatness of life force that lies within everybody. And it's for everyone to discover for themselves. It's a beautiful, beautiful journey. I love it.
That is perfect. Yes. Thank you. This is the easy question. How can people get in touch with you?
I have a website that I'm just starting. My website is called www.divinemanifested.com, and I offer some free breathing. I also have a YouTube channel called Divine Manifested, where I have longer sessions of breathing, especially for beginners, because I feel a lot of videos on YouTube are geared towards more advanced breathing people, but this one's more like I want to make more towards beginners. So yeah, those are the two ways. My
Okay,
website and
perfect,
YouTube channel.
perfect.
Yeah.
And the good news is I'll have it in the description. So it's all there for you, and it doesn't matter, Shilpa, if you forget until you continue on your journey and get to the point where you don't forget anymore. Totally understandable. No
Thank you.
embarrassment
Yeah.
necessary. Yeah, that's okay. So, Shilpa, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Well, like I said, the biggest thing for me has been like when you feel that things are not working around you, start focusing within. And if you don't know where to start, I would say breathing and Ho'oponopono are like very, very beginner friendly and have been an absolute game changer for me. So that would be a great place to start.
Perfect. And you are absolutely on the right track, and you've got such a shining, light in you. I can see it. Just the
Oh,
way you present yourself. So thank you.
thank you so
And
much.
yeah, absolutely. And Shilpa,
I
thank
feel
you
the
for being.
same. Yeah.
Oh,
Had a
thank you
great
for. Yeah,
conversation and it was really nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being here and for your honesty and for sharing this part of your journey with us today. I think this conversation will resonate deeply with people who have spent years trying to hold everything together while quietly disconnecting from themselves in the process. There's something that's so powerful in the reminder that the body is not the enemy and that authenticity can change everything. And thank you for being here with us on Awakening Soul Divinity. And if this conversation resonated with you, take a moment to subscribe, share it with someone who may need it, or leave a comment below. Until next time, welcome home. Thank you for being here. Click on one of the videos below to keep going on your healing journey. And don't forget to subscribe.